Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to SA Accounting Academy. Here's a short clip on one of our previous webinars. I hope that you really do enjoy it.
Welcome back. This is the 8th session out of 11. It should be 9, sorry, the 9th session, which means we've only got 2 more sessions after this. And then you've really had a back to basics introduction to the public sector from beginning to end. I hope that you've enjoyed it and you found it useful. Today we're going to be focusing on the municipality and local government. So the last session, if you were there, you would remember we did the provincial and the larger scale. So we were talking about a little bit about GRAP. We were talking about when IFRS can be used and when it can't be used. And we were talking predominantly about the cash modified accounting framework. So we are talking about accounting in these sessions. And so we're in a little bit more of a comfort zone, but also extending it a little bit because things look a little bit different. We have a lot of chatting to do and a lot of discussion to do as always. So you know us by now, or you should know us by now. So I'm not going to spend too much time with who and what and why and when. But as always, I'm the peanut gallery and Bronwyn is the main source of info. I just comment from the side the whole time, but I'm still around. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Bronwyn, and we will, for housekeeping, break at about 10 o'clock-ish or so, for a 10-minute break, just as a comfort break. And then we will continue until 11 o'clock. So enjoy. I hope that you find the session as useful as we have, and we'll see you on the other side. Have fun. Literally changing seats.
Right. Thanks, Caryn. Good morning, everybody. All right, yeah. So welcome to today's session. Again, like the previous one, we're talking about accounting, or yes, more of annual sort of financial reporting, as opposed to monthly reporting or accounting processes. We've covered in previous sessions systems of internal control around PFM. We spent quite a bit of time on the Municipal Finance Management Act and the concept of internal controls in the areas, and how both or all three acts, structures, systems, and who are the owners now? No, MSA, contribute to the requirements to set up a system of internal control for municipalities or municipal entities and municipalities. So we've gone through the nuts and bolts, the stuff that is supposed to set up the system of internal control to generate the underlying accounting records that are supposed to enable a municipality or a municipal entity to prepare an annual report. And so that annual report comprises both performance information, which we're going to do in the next session, as well as the financial report, so the financial statements. Okay, and the underlying systems give you the reported performance of the entity as well as financial information. And those two things need to speak to each other. So we're going to see a little bit of that correlation as we work through the MFMA stuff today. So to go through the course outline briefly, and this is what you would have seen in the advertisement for this particular session, session 9. We're going to, so in the previous session, I took you through a high level of what the PFMA and PFMA in the last session, what the journey is from the sections in the PFMA through to how we get to which accounting framework applies to which government structures or entities in the whole public sector environment in South Africa. And so today we're looking at the local government sector, but there is still a tie back to the PFMA. And because we discussed some of that structure last week and we went into a little bit more detail in terms of the standards of GRAP and the Accounting Standards Board or the ASB, I'm going to touch on it today to give you a reminder, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. What I am going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit more about the IPSASB and IPSAS, just to give you that extra flavor about public sector accounting, what we're doing here in South Africa and how it compares to the rest of the world. So you have that global view and you're able to benchmark where we are, which is just such a contradictory position that we find ourselves in South Africa. And I'll talk through that when we talk about the IPSAS and public sector accounting and accrual-based accounting in the world. So we talk about IPSAS, and then we will go back to say, well, where does the legislative requirement for financial reporting come from for MFMA, for municipal or local government? We'll touch again on the conceptual framework for general purpose financial reporting, again, that's published by the ASB, but only just to onboard us again into the discussion of GRAP for MFMA for this session. So it won't be in much detail. I've got some of the same slides from last week because it's relevant to the discussion. We're not going to spend as much time as we did on last week's session discussing the conceptual differences between accounting in the public sector and accounting in the private sector. It's such a useful discussion though. So if you haven't watched last week's session, really it's useful to watch them both, because the principles of accounting in the public sector, obviously, there are some differences in municipal versus provincial and national, but the underlying concepts of service delivery obviously are still the same, right?
These two sessions go together.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're going to so combine the other impacts of legislation as well as having a look at GRAP. Now, this is one session, a high-level session on GRAP. It is not a GRAP course.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not take you through the technical elements of all the standards of GRAP. It is saying, look, in local government, these are some of the big ticket and significant items that impact on accounting. And so I have really picked the big ones, the significant ones. It is by no means everything.
Yeah.
And I have a very brief technical discussion highlighting some of the technical issues and not in depth at all of some of the applicable GRAP standards. And some of those accounting terms, well, actually, I don't think there's anything there that you don't already know in terms of an accounting, accrual accounting concept, or even a fair value accounting concept. And so what we're doing is we're saying, oh, look, you should understand this stuff. This is something you've seen before. How does it look, smell different in the public sector? And so when I say understand the contexts that impact the application of GRAP standards in local government, that's what we'll be discussing. So the table of contents, just to show you how we're going to spread it out, is that we'll recap on MFMA, and this is an MFMA week, and I'll tell you why that is just now. We'll talk a little bit about international public sector accounting, IPSASB and IPSAS, take you back to the Accounting Standards Board, just quickly look at the MFMA and Directive 5, retouch quickly on the accounting, the conceptual public sector differences in the framework, and then look at the standards of GRAP in the context of financial reporting in local government, and then some other little sneaky things that come into financial reporting in the local government space, which need to come into the financial statements. So that's what we'll go through today. Slightly fewer slides, probably more discussion. And so what is always interesting is when we are working with an accrual-based framework, especially one that does allow and cater for fair value accounting, is to say, okay, well, that is something we thought we understood as accountants, and how is it that much different in the public sector? So, this is where the interesting bits of the discussion come in, and this is also, you'll see a very strong correlation between that and how it's going so wrong in some places. So just to recap, it is in terms of financial reporting, the MFMA, there are the Structures and the Systems Act, that's the IAS, that apply to the whole internal control environment for municipal financial management in South Africa, but it's the MFMA that then goes to the point of saying this is how the financial statements need to be prepared and when, and it's applicable to municipalities and their entities, the municipal entities, and the financial year is from 1 July to 30 June. And so this week, actually next week, Tuesday, 31st August, is the date which those financial statements for this year ended 30 June 2021 need to be submitted to the Auditor General for auditing. So this is the week where everyone's doing AFS reviews, GRAP compliance checklists. That is this week.
I think the 31st of August is the accountant's Halloween.
Yes, actually, that's a really good point.
It is, because it's provisional taxes are due, February year-ends are due.
Yes, that's right.
And you've got the PFMA financials.
MFMA financials are due.
MFMA.
This, to the AG.
And then to new trusts also due.
That's right. That's right. So it is actually, you're right, August is.
I think that's why all accountants take the first week of September off.
I hope that you enjoyed that video. For more of our webinar videos, go to www.accountingacademy.co.za. Thank you and have a lovely day.